So what should an athlete eat to prevent weight gain during off season?
It really depends on what sport you're going into in the off season, and there's a few scenarios that might happen. One, you might be changing sports altogether with our young athletes who play maybe hockey in the winter and soccer in the summer. There's a very different energy need that happens. So you want to eat maybe a little bit more if your game, or if your game and your energy expenditure is going a little bit longer. And you might want to time your food a little bit differently if you're going to be sprinting versus if you're going to be doing a slower jog. But some people don't even train as hard in the off season as they do in the season. So you might want to have a little bit less overall energy. Maybe you don't need as much protein. So it really, really depends on the sport. That's a big variable.
I totally agree with what she's saying. It's so hard to answer because so many sports are different. You look at people that play baseball. You know, they don't spend as much energy. Runners or people that play soccer, football, it's totally different. In the off season, you train differently also. Mm-hmm. You don't train the same way as you do during the season. So it's such a hard question to answer, but food is so important when you train for an athlete. It's your fuel. We often say that the way you eat is the way that you'll perform. Yeah. But many people that are athletes, that are professional, doesn't matter what type of diet they have, they're gonna keep that diet because that's the way that they got there. And it's really hard to change a habit of somebody that became professional eating a certain way and to change that after. It's like, whether it's superstitious or
the associated to
exactly.
the
So
success.
it's hard to change.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot about carb loading diet. What is it exactly?
That has to do with preparing for your event, and you hear it a lot around marathon running, or long distance running, or cycling. And this is when you take the time in the week or the few days prior to your big event, and you fill up on high carb foods. These are could be fruit, grains, and you want to have a bit more of those in your diet leading up to the event so that you're filling your muscles with what's called glycogen, which is a fuel for your muscles.
Are there any risks in doing that, or risks of mistakes, or a bad way to do it, or?
Well, a lot of people don't eat enough, actually. You really have to eat a lot more, or drink. A good way to do it is to drink some fruit juice, just get more carbs in. So a lot of people actually don't get to the carb-loading amount that they really need.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I could tell that that's your expertise because she's so right. Even in hockey, even though you don't need as much carbs as you do for a long distance runner, often it happens that people run out of steams when you play a couple games, a couple nights, because again, like, people eat too much meat and not enough carbs sometimes. And a lot of athletes, especially tough physical sport, they talk a lot about the meat diet, about eating just protein to keep your weight down, and it's easier during the season. And often those guys that are not eating enough carbs are having problems with energy levels. So it's really important to do it, but to do it with the right dosage and stuff. But again, in the world of professional athletes, people that got there often, I'd say the majority of them, they do it in a way that it works for them, when some of them could be a little more efficient if they had professional help in terms of their performance, because it could help their careers to be much longer if people, you hear it all the time, athletes saying that if I would have eaten the right way, I took care of myself during my career, I would have played 5 or 6, 10 more years.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that's how you heal up your body, the way you eat after. So it's so important to do it the right way.
Yeah, because even in sports like hockey, where it's not the long distance event, you do have at the elite level back-to-back games or tournament days for younger players. They have sometimes 2 or 3 games in a day, so that carbohydrate loading is also good for them as well.
Okay. And so how do you do it? You were talking about fruits and things like that. How many days before? How does it work?
Well, what you see in the research is that typically it's 3 days before. So if your game is on a Saturday, you want to start thinking carb load on Wednesday. And you're just increasing the amount of the carb that you have at your meal. So if you're having a bowl of cereal at breakfast, have a little bit more cereal. If you're having a piece of fruit for a snack, maybe have 2 pieces of fruit. You're doubling in some cases, sometimes tripling, just to get in all of those extra carbohydrates. And often along with that, you're reducing your activity level. So your body is supercharged for by the time you get to Saturday.
So I was curious, what are the differences between an athlete and a vegetarian athlete? What are the risks? What you need to be careful with? So that would be my next question for you guys.